figure it's not a bad time and not a bad album title to be adding to the wall up here. Particularly something like this. Far out, man. Today's Gingers, Far Out. This album is Canadian, I think out of Vancouver, coming at you from a very good year, 1994. It's got such a, I know it's so glary right now, but it's got a fabulous cover art. Hopefully I can zoom in or show you here. The insides, awesome too. Cool. Low key CD with the moon behind it. Full moon, baby. Just more dogs, love it. But unfortunately, besides the title and the cover art, it's not a whole lot more than your run-of-the-mill alt-rock, sort of indie-flavored classic rock. I'll get into it right now. It kicks off with the title track with some somber strumming over some soft vocals, followed up by some slow, intermittent, almost dejected guitar riffs. It's a decent appetizer to start this album off, and it gives you a taste for what Ginger has to offer. I forgot to mention it's released by Network Productions. The second track, Solid Ground, is a softer rock, almost country-flavored song, with a wailing, reverby, sad guitar. It's just kind of all around a bummer, which I don't think is the meaning or the intention behind the song, which is trying to be this solid ground, this rock to stand on. I guess I just don't feel as secure as they do on this one. Luckily for me, they open up the next track with a almost Courtney Barnett-esque guitar riff, which I'm just a huge fan. Unlike one of Courtney's songs, this builds up to a rockier, upbeat, get up and shake loose kind of jam. One of my favorites on the track for sure. It ends up being more of a classic rock jam by the end of it, with a super fun organ outro and just ripping guitars. It drops back into the sort of recurring theme of the album with the song Saying Sorry Again. It's a softer, regretful, acoustic breakup song that is about feeling bad about giving someone a second try. The harmonies on this one aren't bad, but I can't help but see the transition from the last song into this one making me feel just totally deflated by those slow, generically sad intro chords. Just a bad placement for this track in general. Might have been better at, like, place 6 or something. The next track, Keep Looking Back, starts you off with a false start to wake you up from the last song. It's much needed because, man, I just fall asleep on those kind of tracks. It's a jazzier send-off from the previous 2 tracks, with a good groove on this sort of walk-off pace. It's accompanied by a simple piano drum backdrop with fun, smooth guitar solos throughout. On the Road Yet Again is just a quick, soft, slow, similarly vocally performed and generally performed as many of the other tracks. It's a forgettable little snippet of 2 minutes that just feels like a bit of filler. On to the longest and my favorite track of the album, Ocean Drain. It is a bit corny, but I think it's got a lovely atmosphere. Starting off with some soft, hand-picked guitars and building into a indie rock jam with a classic rock guitar backing. This is unfortunately one of the few times where I find the vocal performance hits spot on where it needs to, complementing the track really well. It's nice and gruff and not too intrusive, but still there and somewhat memorable. As it jams, it settles back down, but leaves you kicking off with another just rock jam session. Onto a more pop-rocky, surfer vibey track that builds and crashes back down to earth again. This track's called The Earth Revolves Around You. Yay, we're still filming. That is a joy. Some more exciting synth organ undertones and just a good bridge chorus build makes this track more listenable than some of the previous breakup songs, because at the end of the day, that's all this one is again. One of the nicer transitions on the album onto the song Mr. Attitude. Being bitter over the attitude of a shitty friend, this again starts softly, acoustically, but slaps you in the face with the actual song that isn't very substantive, but is quite catchy. A valiant attempt at a catchy pop song, but at the end of the day, sort of like almost this whole album, it's listenable, but it's generic. That definition continues to fit extremely well in this next song, Dark Side of My Mind. Immediately, if you have a song with the word dark side in the hook or the name, I'm gonna just be a little hesitant to jump in and be on board with you. I'm sorry, it's become a trope at this point, and it was a trope even back in the 90s, I think. Another breakup song with a surprisingly upbeat tone for the lyrics on this one. I think I miss reading into this one because it probably is just a, ha! Now you're on the back of my mind, I don't have to worry about you, I'm moving on. But as I mentioned, nothing special, it's generic but listenable. Closing out this just over 40-minute album with a nice alt-rock ballad with the most interesting lyrics probably on the entire project. This is a cautionary tale called The One Who Fell from Grace on the News. It's essentially, keep pushing forward, but don't forget all the people that got you where you are today. A nice closing sentiment, and overall, a pretty well performed and mixed album. With all sorts of breakup songs, it feels like a band trying to desperately move on with their lives. This might be a good album for you to finally kick that on-again, off-again relationship you've been trying to. It's not horrible, but it's one of those weird cases where I don't have a whole lot of bad things to say about it, but really not a whole lot of good things to say either. Maybe one more listen before I send it back to where it came from. My best description of this project would be super safe, doesn't push its limits, doesn't push its luck, but at the same time that ends up creating a take it or leave it alt-rock album. If you see it, if it's cheap, grab it, try it out. If not, don't worry about it. Thank you everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, all the things, comment, share. I appreciate it. I'll see you again. Bye-bye. That's pretty far out, man! Mostly just like the Popsons.